Hello, my name is Teal Welling, and I'd like you to subscribe to this page. Just hit the subscribe button below, and then just to the right of that, hit the bell button, which will inform you of when I make more videos. When I post them, you'll get a notification. Hello, my name is Teal Welling, and I'm going to talk to you today about interesting information that my mind is doing its thing with. This is the fictional Starship Enterprise. It is three things in one. Please subscribe to my page, hit the subscribe button, the bell to let you know when new recordings occur, and if you could, like this video because it's going to be interesting, and this is part 3 in the series about the subject. Or is it 4 by now? Starship Enterprise. It is obviously the Starship Enterprise and such. It is also an aspect of King Solomon's Temple in direct relationship to a Freemason lodge. You have the Worship Master, you have the elevated stage, Worship Master, the elevated stage, and then the area between the altar and the Worship Master, and then of course you have the altar and the three pillars that combine into one, and that makes the warp core, or in this case the Egyptian Jeded, that has the whole life and resurrection and all kinds of other interesting aspects. Well, those other interesting aspects, the Jeded, the warp core, and the three candles, have extremely similar Webster's definition meanings. You have, of course, at the end of this, you have an officer sits here, and an officer sits here, and then the gallery sits here and here, and this is entirely open, except for the actions and activities that occur here and here. Of course, you then come and go from a lodge through here, which is the shuttle bay, the fictional shuttle bay, which Gene Roddenberry standing here. I hypothesize that Gene Roddenberry standing here, looking this direction, saw the Temple of Caesar, the Temple of Venus, the Colosseum, the connector bridges up to the Palatine Hill and the Domus Juliae, connector bridges up to the Esquiline Hill and the Imperia Fora. So you have the Enterprise, King Solomon's Temple, a copy of King Solomon's Temple, a Freemason Lodge, the outline, and you have the east side of the Roman Forum. This would be the west side, and the Capitoline Hill and such. So you have three things in one one representation. Okay. Now, where things get a little bit interesting and weird. If you draw a line from here straight through, and you go into a fictionalized warp bubble, into a Einstein Rosen Bridge, and you go there, this line will intersect the line that is created if you draw a line from the farthest north Djedefre Pyramid down to the Giza Plateau, Khufu, Khafre, Menkaure, down to the Bent Pyramid. That is the double spine. That is the double spine of the Siamese twin double spine of Janus. Rome, Janus, the deity, the schema, the foundation aspects of the Roman Empire is Janus. What the culture revolved around the Memento Mori ceremony, which comes from Janus, which is both the last year is Old Man Winter, old Man last year, Baby New Year. Well, that's Janus. Okay? And since this is December 19th, you have a great deal of stuff going on with that exact subject. The Old Man of 2020 is the west face of Janus, and the Baby New Year of 2021 is the Baby New Year of the east face of Janus. the east face, the east face and the west face of the Enterprise, as well as this is the exact orientation of a Freemason west. So, the worship master to the altar, to the officer here, to the officer here, the gallery sitting here, the gallery sitting here, and no one sits in these areas. Rome. Colosseum, Temple of Venus, Temple of Caesar, the Palatine Hill, the Domus Julii, the Esquiline Hill, and the Imperia Fora. So you have, and of course, and so you have Rome, the Starship Enterprise, fictionally, and King Solomon's Temple, and which is a Freemason Lodge of the Blue Line. When you have this pointed that direction, approximately where Gene was standing about here, he looked, and I hypothesized that his imagination said, "I have an idea." Now he couldn't say any of this kind of stuff because he got these ideas from his time in the OSS with the Operation Monuments Men, but that doesn't matter. The Rome and the King Solomon's Temple and its connection with the infrastructure is the entire point. Whether or not he created a fictionalized concept is not much of a difference whatsoever. But if you draw a line from here straight for 1,300 miles, give or take, it will collide with the pyramids of Egypt. The pyramids have a very interesting thing, because not only, as I've discussed in other videos, the pyramids have the infrastructure, the electrical generating infrastructure, the aten in the headdress of various assorted deities, the entrance temples, the causeways, the pyramids, which are prisms, and that situation gets the prisms with the pyramids becomes extremely intense and layeredly complicated, because each of the, for instance, the Khufu pyramid, it doesn't have four sides. The Khufu pyramid, which is the second from the top, and the farthest north on the Giza plateau. Although the interesting thing is that the Giza plateau, the name of the ceremony involved is the Memento Mori ceremony. That ceremony took place in part right here. The Temple of Venus, and just to off the farthest west portion shoulder of the Temple of Venus, on the Amber Road, you're going to find the Arch of Titus. Well, inside the north wall of the Arch of Titus is a description in art form, is a relief of a carving of the Memento Mori ceremony, at least the important part, the Shakespeare, the Hamlet holding the skull up situation, and of course how that skull was obtained. That was the 1A Memento Mori ceremony, part 1A. The emotions involved with handling a dead body, the relatives of the person, the commander's emotions and such toward those actions. That's all 1B, and of course then there's 1C, which would be you make C light from one from point 1C past point 2, which would be part 2, which is a community involvement situation. Then that goes to another dimension, another place, heaven, the afterlife, whatever you want to call it. It creates a half circle, a U. And as you do that, you then have the community involved, and you have, which is what is depicted, a parade, community involvement parade, what have you. You have that, and then the part 3 gives the community a talk back. Well, that completes Ohm's law. That completes the circuit. That circuit, the circle, then as it completes, is a form of the Einstein Rosen Bridge. It is completing of a circuit that is the Auton, which is the Einstein Rosen Bridge. Now, you have the Jaded, and the Jaded is 3 things at the same time. 2 of them, 4 things at the same time. 2 of which are fictional. One thing is all too. One of them fictional. The others are all too real. The Jaded is a collection of reeds bound together, which is also the fascia. The symbol of the Praetorian Guard was a collection of bound sticks with a piece of metal sticking out. Some claim it was a hammer, some claim it would be an axe, some claim it was just a ceremonial piece of metal sticking out. That fascia is in part based from the Jaded of Egypt. That Jaded is the warp core. Obviously this is fiction, but the Jaded is real. It's a real part of Egyptian mythology. It's a real bundle of sticks, and when you separate those sticks out in Masonry, that becomes the pillars and some other sticks that are in direct association. There's a large thing. There's a lot of sticks that can be bound together in Masonry, and my brother Masons understand that all too well. That you can have those 3, and then those 3, and then those over there, and then those over there. Bind them together, and you have a fascia. So there's the Freemasonry thing, there's King Solomon's Temple thing, there's the Jaded thing, and you have a similar design statue in this pyramid, in the Temple of Venus, as well as the Starship Enterprise and the warp core, which then powers the warp engines that then make this go 186,000 miles per second when the Einstein Rosen Bridge is encapsulated and becomes, and for a lack of a better description, I have a friend in Tulsa, Oklahoma, who helped me create some of these ideas. A cocoon, for lack of a better description, better word. So 1,300-ish miles away, and you have the pyramids. And the pyramids, all of them are a prism. Actually, all of them are several prisms together, depending on my allergies and such. You have that. Now, with that whole interaction, you also have the north and south, northwest, southeast faces of a different type aspect of Janus, because you have a Janus facing this direction, because you enter the city. One of the ways to enter the city would be this way. You can enter from that direction too, but this is the way some people, they enter the city and then would walk this direction into the Roman Forum from the west, from the east to the west, which goes along with the Psalm 23, which is, "Yo, I walked through the valley of the shadow of death." Well, the Colosseum was a building built for mass murder, genocide, and the materials of it are from King Solomon's Temple, I hypothesize. But you can find equations for this, where you can find equations for astrophysics, quantum physics, and the like. I theorize, and at this point it's getting close to I hypothesize, and it's getting pretty close to a theory, that inside of the several different kingdoms of and ages of the Egyptology, what they used a lot of the same ceremonies, they just called them different things. Well, if you go to the funerary rites and funerary ceremonies of ancient Egypt, you do that. I'm guessing that several of the figures can be translated from a funerary rite into a modern type astrophysics and or even a quantum physics type equation, which would allow for, if this is true, but and the reason there's no reason to assume it's not true, because when you get right down to the basic facts and evidence involved, you have completing Ohm's law as part of the momentum mori ceremony, which came directly from Egyptology. The name of it came from the fourth pyramid down from Jidefre, Khufu, Khafre, Menkaure. Mem's sacred building, Memkaure. Memento Mori ceremony, MEM, is the same in that pyramid as it is in the ceremony. So you have equations written, astrophysics and quantum physics, as well as other types of physics, equations written into the hieroglyphics of the Old Kingdom. They were just copied, and the translations were altered significantly, which is not something that modern culture is actually quite good at doing. Tuxedo Park, New York, where you'd have an awful Tony party, which is where that name came from. The award was named for the parties in Tuxedo Park. And so you have that whole situation happening. Well, the Tonys have changed their name, have changed meanings. The word gay used to mean a really nice, really swanky party. Specifically parties in Tuxedo Park, New York. There is the word cool. 80, 40, 60, 70 years ago, cool meant temperature. Now it means an aspect of whether something is good or bad. You have a large number of words that have radically changed meanings in the last century. Well, try adding 2,200 years and cultures that are warring against each other, and those cultures don't like each other. The Old Kingdom, the people who built the pyramids were not fans of the Hyksos, and the Hyksos were seriously genocidal level, mass murder level, burning libraries level, erasing accomplishments level. No fans of the Old Kingdom, and that's when pyramid construction stopped. Is when the Hyksos invaded and seized control over Egypt around 2100 BC. Well, 2,000 years plus later is when the Rosetta Stone was created, which is a dictionary, and that is a good solid dictionary. The problem is that it was done under Roman direction. Well, the Romans were not a fan of the Greeks or the Egyptians, despite the fact that all kinds of stuff goes along with that. So this is not a definition. The Rosetta Stone was not definitions of 800 years before it was made, or the Hyksos time, or the Avaris time, or the 18th dynasty time, or the original builders of the pyramids time. So there's no reason at all to assume that the definitions, when the Rosetta Stone was written, that dictionary was written, that those definitions apply for 2,000 plus years before it was written down. In fact, it's almost guaranteed that etymologically speaking, that the same definitions 2,000 years later would not apply. So the funerary rites could easily be sequence after sequence after sequence of equations of physics and other upper end mathematical equations. That's what those equations are. They're not funerary rites or funerary prayers or whatever. They're equations, and later cultures just simply reused those equations, and they used the names differently than the origins of those letters and those words and those characters did apply. So there's lots of stuff going on in this situation. Not only is there a huge amount of etymological stuff happening and going on that needs to be paid attention to, but there's also this equation thing in the funerary rites is just one aspect of evidence that suggests that the Old Kingdom had not only had an understanding of the Einstein Rosen Bridge, as we call it now, as we've called it for only the last bit, give or take about 100 years, about a century or so, since Einstein and Rosen got together to create their theory and then put it out into the world. The information is solid and correct. The problem is that it was discovered before then by other cultures, and is demonstrated, and large construction projects were started, done, completed, and it's possible that the pyramids could have been a launching pad for an Einstein Rosen Bridge to go from, say, the Bent Pyramid, do whatever ritual stuff involved, funerary stuff involved, activate the building, and using Prism, using light, using electricity, because obviously the primary material used in all the pyramid construction is different aspects of materials that had extremely high content of quartz. Well, when you compress quartz, you release electricity. So if you compress hundreds of tons of quartz in either granite form, limestone, or a couple other different types of forms of quartz, if you compress it based off the rising setting of the sun, there's going to be a lot of electricity generated. Even to this day, there's a lot of electricity generated, although the casing stones have been removed, so the directed channeling of the electricity, that may not be there anymore. The limestone may have had an infrastructure that allowed for a channeling of the electricity to specific points that would have allowed for the creation of a stabilized electromagnetic tunnel with an event horizon to be able to travel instantly from the entrance temple of the Bent Pyramid to King Solomon's Temple, or the entrance temple heading from west to east, FreeMasonry, heading from west to east, going from west to east, go into a pyramid, down the causeway, do the rites and whatever stuff going on, and then exit, and then hit that entrance temple, and then having turned on an Einstein Rosen Bridge event horizon, travel from here. The pyramid that is just to the south of the Pep in the first pyramid, which is a few pyramids north of the farthest south, which is the Bent Pyramid. It's possible that those funerary equations are about turning on that hypothesized stabilized wormhole by Einstein Rosen Bridge to travel to there. Now, that pyramid, the other pyramid I'm talking about, is actually kind of important for several days from now, which is December 25th, the night of it's Christmas Eve, the night of December 24th, which would be the so-called birth of Jesus. Well, if that is true, that is the functionality and structure of that situation, then could the wise men have done this had gone in there, had turned it on, and then had traveled from the eastern entrance temple of the Jeded Isis temple, Isis pyramid, and traveled to the temple that was to the entrance of the Cave of the Nativity, exited that temple only 250 miles, it's only 265 miles away, exited, and then been present at the birth of Jesus. Now, there's no reason at all that mathematically this could not be an accurate description of the information, because the buildings are in alignment, the buildings are clearly still evident, at least portions of the buildings are. The funerary equations, if the funerary prayers are equations, which there's no reason to assume that they're not. In fact, every prayer is a sequence, is a directed sequence of actions. Well, that is the definition of a mathematical equation, is to have a directed sequence of actions. Every equation describes the motion of something, which is the reason why it's called physics. The study of motion. That's what physics translates to. So you have equations, prayers, that describe motion. So if you have a prayer that describes a sequence of motions, then you have a equation that describes a sequence of motions. They work just because it's different languages, different language and different words doesn't mean that you're not describing exactly the same thing. So, etymologically speaking, it's still the same thing. So there's no reason to assume that the sequence of actions that are described are not actually physically, literally designed to be an equation to turn on an Einstein Rosen Bridge, get an event horizon in the Aten, that is represented in the headdress of several of the deities involved and there were descriptions and actual physical depictions of those deities in some of the entrance temples, and those figures were anywhere between 6 and 30 feet tall, depending on the size of the building. So you have all the elements there to make a Stargate. Go from Stargate A to Stargate B, and then be able to achieve various assorted goals. Now, obviously, the enemies, the Hyksos and the descendant cultures of the Hyksos would hate this information and do their absolute best to destroy anyone who knew about it or burn any of the books. And there's this thing over here, the Colosseum. This Colosseum was designed to do what? It was built for the secondary sole purpose of. There's another purpose to it as well, which is with this purpose. It was designed to be a site of mass murder, to take all those new Christians and those Jews and the followers of Jesus, followers of Paul, followers of what have you, and kill them. So you have a physical building, five-story tall building that's both a satellite, electromagnetic radio telescope satellite like Arecibo was. You have it built in right here. The engineering is way too close not to be at least semi designed for that purpose. The basement is the Bose Wave Radio Company basically designed their speaker system based off of the basement of the Colosseum. The angles and the degrees and the construction of it is just too close, which the stadium part is fantastic. It's beautiful for sound controlling, sound generating, sound focusing, and then the roof has an iris, has a lens to not a lens but it opens and closes to focus the sound, focus the electromagnetic waves coming in and out. You have the crowd that screams. You have you have death and murder and such. So you have all kinds of electricity and electromagnetics coming and going all over the place. So you have all the key elements necessary to be able to do some kind of a transportation from from the Temple of Venus and the city of pillars that used to be here to the pyramids, and then the pyramids to use them as a stargate, for lack of a better fictional description, to one of the destinations of one of those places. Now, this also comes into the effect of there's some ideas regarding the concept of Jacob's ladder, a ladder that Jacob went to the light place, which is ancient Sumerian. The light place translates to a Stonehenge, a megalith, many rocks used to be able to achieve certain goals, mostly calendar oriented and astrophysics oriented and the like. So he went to the light place and slept on a stone, and then in that sleep he had a vision of building a ladder so that angels can ascend and descend from heaven. Well, that's metaphorically exactly what a radio telescope does. That would be exactly what an Einstein Rosen Bridge would do. That would be exactly what a Stargate would also do. Although Stargate and the Enterprise are fiction, it doesn't mean they're not based on hard fact realities. In fact, the equations involved with the funerary rites could very easily be they're not funerary rites, they're literally equations. They were written to be equations, and later enemies changed them from equations because they couldn't understand the word equation, even though they could not understand the concept of the equation, even though the word would not exist for several thousand years, because it had to be equation is a Latin word, or is it Greek? Although there's like 40, 50 different versions of Greek. There's 15, 20 different versions of Proto-Greek, depending on region of the Aegean. There's several different versions of Classic Greek, and there's been at least 6 or 7 different versions from Classic Greek forward. There's been 6 or 7 versions, so you've got, and regional colloquialisms and what stuff means this decade does not mean it's going to mean the same thing in the next decade for the last 2,500 years since Classic Greek emerged. So you have 30, 40 languages going on there, so it's kind of difficult to actually pen down and determine what something means is actually what it means. It means word means what it does in that area for that decade. So you have a lot going on in this research, and this doesn't even mildly touch the amount of information in the Prism system. The prisms, the mathematics of a prism, of splitting light, is where some aspects of both relativity, E equals mc squared, as well as many aspects of prism mathematics, not prism, but prism mathematics adds to both HUP, as well as the Einstein Rosen Bridge. They all depend on an accurate understanding of the splitting, the divisions, and the bending of light. So you have a lot of evidence pointing toward there's more going on in Rome, in King Solomon's Temple, in Freemasonic Lodge, in the pyramids, which are Janus, and you have the west face of Janus is the past, the east face of Janus is the future. And the pyramids are Janus. Janus is the pyramids. They're the same exact subject. You have the Jaded and the warp core, and the Masons have I am a Mason. You have a bundle of sticks, which is a fascia. Going back to those prayers, those funerary rite talks and conversations, as well as the Book of the Dead, going back to all that stuff, it's starting to add up to a very substantial hypothesis / theory, because there's so much of the evidence involved that cannot be disproven. Yes, the pyramids are there. Yes, they're things. This is real. King Solomon's Temple and Rome is real, and the momentum originated is real, and the pyramids as a whole, being Janus, is real, and Janus is there's millions and millions of depictions of Janus in dozens and dozens of different formats in the Roman Empire, scattered over the entire length of the Roman Empire and antiquities, scattered over the world, because there's rich people who purchased antiques, and some of them are, you can probably even find representations of Janus on Antarctica, let alone all the other continents put together, no problem. So there's so much going on. There's so much happening. A splitting of light, the light bridges, not to mention the fact that there is some aspect. There's at least a couple different aspects where you can find aspects of the stories of Yggdrasil and the Norns and the Poetic Eddas as part of Egyptology, because if you use the concept of the bent pyramid as this double rainbow, and you take that concept and apply it from the bent pyramid to the Djedefre pyramid, and do a Roy G. Biv and Roy G. Biv, if you do that, that's pretty close to the definition of Bifrost, the rainbow bridge from the Nordic pantheon. And of course the generalized shape of the internal structure of the Khufu pyramid can be defined as it has all the major structures of the world tree, the Yggdrasil of Nordic mythology, and including the little pondish area that Odin looked down. He hung himself by the ankle and looked down. Well, that's the grotto. That's a real thing. And there is a little chamber down in there where it's a pretty heavy duty thing, that chamber down there in the grotto, that where the runes could have been part in that niche, in that a library cache in that niche that he went down into the well of Erd, Wierd, Eierd, went down into that well of Erd, came up with the runes and with the Elder Futhark, and proceeded to do some really interesting stuff. Well, architecture documentation is pointing in the direction that there's a high degree of accuracy within these ideas. So please, my name is T.R. Welling, and this is my YouTube channel, as well as I have Instagram and a couple others. So please subscribe on YouTube. Please subscribe and hit the bell, letting you know when I have more videos. Hit the bell, and if you can, hit the thumbs up like button down there. And as you watch my videos, I have more coming. So thank you very much for your time and patience as I work out these extremely complicated ideas. I bid you peace.